The city lights were fading as dawn slowly painted the sky with soft colors. Most of Hollywood was still asleep, but Keanu Reeves was already awake. He quietly left his apartment, dressed in simple clothes, and walked down the empty street. No cameras, no fans, no spotlight followed him this early. He preferred it that way. He had a secret routine, something he never told the world about. Every morning, before filming, before interviews, before the endless noise of fame, he would stop at a small shelter hidden between tall buildings. The shelter was old, almost forgotten, but inside it were people who had no home, no family, and no hope. Keanu always brought bags of food, blankets, and sometimes even books. He never told anyone, not even his closest friends. It was his quiet act of kindness, a way of staying human in a world that often forgot what kindness meant. On that same morning, Ana de Armas was driving through the city. She had been working late and wanted to clear her head. Her career was growing fast, and with it came pressure and loneliness. As she passed through a narrow street, she noticed something unusual. A tall man, dressed simply, was carrying heavy bags toward a dark doorway. She slowed her car and watched. Her heart skipped a beat when she realized who it was. Keanu Reeves. Ana parked a little distance away and stepped out quietly. She had worked with him before on movie sets, but this was different. This was not the world of cameras or scripts. This was real. She followed him slowly, curious, unsure if she should intrude. She saw him greet people inside the shelter, his voice soft, his smile gentle. He bent down to talk to an old man who looked forgotten by the world. Keanu placed his hand on the man's shoulder and spoke with deep care. Ana felt her chest tighten. She had seen actors play roles of heroes, but here was a man who did not need a script to be one. She wanted to step inside, to say something, but something held her back. She stayed hidden near the entrance, listening, her heart filling with questions. Why did he do this in silence? Why did no one know? Why did he hide such kindness from the world? Suddenly, one of the shelter volunteers noticed her standing in the shadows. The woman walked over and whispered gently, "Are you here for help too?" Ana was startled. She smiled nervously and shook her head. "No, I was just passing by." The volunteer looked at her kindly and returned inside. Ana remained still, her eyes fixed on Keanu. After a while, Keanu finished handing out supplies and sat on the floor with the others. He laughed softly at a joke someone made, and for a moment he looked like he belonged there, not as a star, but as a brother, a friend. Ana could not move. She felt like she was witnessing something sacred, something the world was never meant to see. But then came the conflict. As Keanu prepared to leave, one of the men inside began shouting angrily. His voice was loud, filled with pain and bitterness. He accused Keanu of pretending, of showing pity he did not mean. The atmosphere grew tense. The others fell silent. Keanu did not defend himself with anger. Instead, he walked closer to the man, his tone calm. "I am not here to pretend. I am here because I see you." Those words cut through the air. The man lowered his head, tears forming in his eyes. The silence in the room was heavy, but also full of emotion. Ana felt her own eyes grow wet. She had seen many strong moments in films, but this was raw, human, and unforgettable. As Keanu stepped out of the shelter, Ana quickly hid behind her car. She was afraid he might see her, afraid he might think she was spying, but deep inside, she felt a spark ignite. She wanted to know more. She wanted to understand why he carried this secret kindness in silence. She decided, in that moment, that she would not let this mystery slip away. Little did she know her curiosity would pull her into a journey that would test her own heart, reveal painful truths, and uncover stories buried deep within the lives of those forgotten souls. And along the way, she would discover that kindness, when hidden, can sometimes shine brighter than the biggest spotlight in Hollywood. The next morning, Ana could not shake the images from her mind. She woke up early, her thoughts still circling around what she had seen. Keanu Reeves, the man the world admired for his movies, was living a life of quiet service that no one knew about. She asked herself again and again, should she tell someone? Should she ask him? Or should she stay silent? Her heart told her one thing. This was not about fame or news. It was about understanding why. So she decided to go back. The streets were just as quiet as before when she returned to the shelter. She parked farther away this time, careful not to draw attention. She waited, her eyes scanning the road. Minutes passed like hours until finally, she saw him again. Keanu walked with steady steps, carrying more bags than before. He looked tired, but his face showed no complaint. Anna followed him quietly, her heartbeat quickening. This time she stepped closer, almost to the doorway. She could hear the voices inside, soft greetings, a child's laughter. Then she heard Keanu's voice. It was calm, steady, full of warmth. Anna leaned forward just a little too far, and the door creaked. Keanu turned his head slightly, his eyes catching hers. For a brief moment, their eyes met. Anna froze. Her breath stopped, but Keanu did not look surprised or angry. He simply gave a small nod as if he already knew someone had been watching. He turned back inside and continued speaking to the people around him. Anna stood there, unsure what to do. Should she walk in? Should she leave? Before she could decide, one of the children ran out of the doorway, bumping into her. The boy laughed, holding a worn-out toy car. Anna bent down, smiled, and asked softly, "Is this your favorite toy?" The boy nodded shyly and rushed back inside. At that moment, Keanu appeared in the doorway. He looked at her, his expression unreadable. For a few seconds, silence stood between them. Then he spoke, his voice low but kind. "You can come in if you want." Anna hesitated, then stepped inside. The room was filled with tired faces, but also soft smiles. The air smelled of soup and bread. People sat close together, sharing whatever little they had. And in the middle of it, Keanu stood like one of them, not above, not distant, just present. Anna watched as he served food, handed out warm clothes, and listened to every story people shared. She saw how they trusted him, not because of who he was in movies, but because he treated them with dignity. When he finally sat down, he looked at her again. "You shouldn't be here," he said quietly. Anna frowned. "Why not?" "Because this is not about me," he answered. "If the world finds out, they will turn it into headlines. And this is not a headline. This is life." His words struck her deeply. She realized he carried this secret not out of shame, but to protect its purity. It was an act of kindness meant for no one's eyes, not even hers. Still, she couldn't stop herself. "But why do you do this, Keanu? Why come here when you could be anywhere else?" He looked away, his eyes falling on an old woman sitting alone in the corner. "Because once, I needed help too. And someone was there for me. I don't forget things like that." Anna felt her throat tighten. She wanted to ask more, but she saw the heaviness in his eyes. There was a story there, a story of pain, of loss, of survival, but he was not ready to share it. Not yet. As the day ended, Keanu left the shelter quietly. Anna followed behind him, her mind restless. She had discovered not just his secret, but also the weight of it. She knew now that behind his silence was a past that shaped him, a past hidden from the world. But the deeper she went, the more she felt a growing pull inside herself. She began asking questions she had avoided for years. What was her own purpose beyond fame? Was she doing enough for others? Had she ever truly listened to the pain of those who had less than her? Her journey had just begun, but she could already feel it. This secret would not only reveal who Keanu really was, it would also force her to face the truth about herself. The following days carried a strange pull on Anna. She found herself waking earlier than usual, driving back to that hidden street, waiting to see him again. Part of her felt guilty for intruding on something private, but another part felt drawn to it, as if she was meant to witness it. On the third morning when she arrived, Keanu was already there. This time, however, the shelter looked different. The atmosphere was tense. Two men were arguing loudly at the entrance. Their voices echoed in the narrow street, anger spilling into the air. Anna froze by her car, unsure if she should step closer. Keanu stood calmly between them. He raised his hands, not with force, but with patience. "Brothers," he said, his voice steady, "anger will not feed you. Let's sit. Let's talk." But one of the men was shaking with rage. "You don't understand," he shouted, pointing at Keanu. "You think you're one of us, but you're not. You'll leave and we'll still be stuck here." The words were heavy, and for a moment, silence filled the space. Anna's heart pounded. She wanted to step in, to defend him, but she stayed hidden, watching. Keanu did not react with pride or hurt. Instead, he nodded slowly. "You're right," he admitted softly. "I can go home tonight, and you cannot. But I am here because I want to see you. I am here because I don't want you to feel invisible." The man's anger began to fade, his voice breaking into a sob. He sank to the ground, covering his face with his hands. Keanu knelt beside him, not saying another word, just placing a hand on his shoulder. Anna felt her chest ache. She realized this was his way, not to argue, not to prove, but to listen, to absorb, to give dignity where it had been lost. After the tension eased, people slowly moved inside. Anna followed again, this time without hesitation. Keanu glanced at her but did not ask her to leave. It felt as though her presence was no longer a surprise. Inside, Anna began helping too. She carried trays, poured soup, and spoke softly to the children. At first, the people looked at her with suspicion. She was new, unfamiliar, a stranger in their fragile space. But as hours passed, they saw her kindness, and their walls began to fall. One little girl tugged at her sleeve and whispered, "Are you his friend?" Anna looked at Keanu across the room, then back at the child. "Yes," she said quietly. "I think I am." But the deeper she stepped into this world, the more questions rose. Who funded this shelter? How long had Keanu been doing this? Why did no one else know? She wanted to ask, but she also feared that asking too much would break the trust forming between them. Later that evening, as the shelter grew quiet, Anna finally found herself alone with Keanu outside. The sun had dipped low, painting the sky in fading orange. He leaned against the wall, his face tired but peaceful. "You shouldn't keep coming," he said gently, though there was no anger in his tone. Anna crossed her arms, standing firm. "If you want me to stop, tell me why you do this. Tell me the truth." Keanu looked at her for a long time, as if weighing something heavy in his heart. Finally, he sighed. "When I was young, I lost people I loved. I lost stability. I learned how fragile life can be, and when you carry that pain, you see it in others. I cannot take away their struggles, but I can stand with them." His words were quiet, but they cut deep. Anna felt her eyes sting with tears. She wanted to reach out, to thank him, but he looked away, his gaze fixed on the street. "This is not a story for the world, Anna. This is something I keep because once you show it, it changes. People will call it charity, or publicity, or image. But kindness doesn't need a camera." Anna swallowed hard. She realized how carefully he protected this secret, how much it mattered to him. But at the same time, she knew that keeping it hidden was also a burden. That night, as she drove home, she wrestled with conflicting thoughts. Should she respect his silence, or should she push him to open up? She admired his humility, but she also believed that stories like his could inspire the world. Her heart was restless. She knew this was no longer just about watching him. It was about confronting her own emptiness. She had fame, success, and recognition, but she felt a quiet hollow inside her. And now, through his secret, she was beginning to see what she had been missing. Anna did not yet realize it, but her presence was already changing something inside Keanu too. For years he had walked alone in his kindness, carrying his past quietly. But now, someone had stepped into that silence, someone who refused to look away. And fate was preparing a test for both of them, one that would soon bring the secret into the open, whether they wanted it or not. The morning came heavy with clouds, the city sky gray and restless. Anna felt the weight of her choice pressing on her as she drove back toward the shelter. Her heart told her she needed to be there, but her mind whispered doubts. She wondered if she was intruding on something sacred, something she had no right to touch. Still, she could not stay away. When she arrived, the street felt strangely quiet. There were no voices at the doorway, no laughter of children spilling outside. She stepped closer, her chest tight with worry. Inside, she found the shelter tense again. The volunteers were whispering among themselves, and the air carried unease. Keanu was standing near the corner, speaking to the manager of the shelter, an older woman with tired eyes. Anna moved closer, careful not to interrupt. "The funding is running out," the woman said, her voice trembling. "We don't have enough to keep this place open next month. Food, medicine, even rent. It's all slipping away." Keanu's face remained calm, but his hands clenched slightly at his sides. "I'll find a way," he replied softly. Anna felt her heart sink. So this was the hidden struggle behind his secret kindness. It was not just about time and effort. It was about survival. The shelter, the people, everything depended on fragile resources that were disappearing. For the first time, Keanu looked weary. His shoulders sagged as if the quiet burden he had carried alone was beginning to crush him. Anna stepped forward, unable to hold back. "Let me help," she said. He turned toward her, his eyes sharp with surprise. "This is not your responsibility." "Maybe not," she answered, her voice steady. "But if I know about it, I can't just walk away." Silence hung between them. Finally, Keanu sighed, shaking his head slightly. "You don't understand, Anna. Once you open this to others, it will no longer be pure. People will question the motives, turn it into noise, and the dignity of these lives will be lost in the headlines. I don't want that." His words cut deep, but they also revealed the depth of his fear. He was not afraid of losing money or time. He was afraid of losing the truth of what kindness meant. Still, Anna could not ignore the urgency. She began spending more time at the shelter, helping the volunteers, talking to the children, and sitting with the old and weary souls who found comfort there. Each day, she felt herself changing, shedding layers of vanity and self-importance she had carried unknowingly. But change often comes with conflict. One evening, as she left the shelter with Keanu, a group of paparazzi spotted them. Flashes of cameras lit up the street. Questions rang out. "Keanu, is this your charity?" "Anna, are you involved in a secret project?" Keanu's face darkened. He pulled his hood up and guided Anna quickly away. Once they reached a quiet corner, his voice was firm. "This is exactly what I feared." Anna felt guilt rise inside her. Had her presence drawn the attention? Had she put his secret at risk? "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't mean for this to happen." Keanu looked at her for a long moment. Then his tone softened. "It's not your fault. But this is why I kept it hidden. The world is quick to twist what it does not understand." The next few days were even harder. Rumors began spreading online. Some said Keanu was running a secret foundation. Others claimed he was hiding wealth or seeking publicity. The shelter became the center of unwanted attention. Reporters lingered nearby, trying to catch glimpses of what was happening inside. Anna watched Keanu face it all with quiet strength. He refused to respond to the noise, refusing interviews, refusing to defend himself. Instead, he focused on the people in front of him, as if nothing else mattered. But inside, Anna could see the toll it was taking on him. His eyes grew heavier, his silence deeper. She knew he carried more pain than he let anyone see. And she realized something else. He trusted her now, even if he didn't say it aloud. He allowed her to stay, to help, to share the weight he had carried alone for years. One night, as they closed the shelter together, Anna finally asked, "Keanu, do you regret letting me see this part of your life?" He paused, leaning against the doorway, the dim light casting shadows across his face. "No," he said slowly. "I don't regret it, but I fear what comes next. Kindness, when exposed, often gets buried under judgment." Anna stepped closer, her voice soft. "Then let's face it together. You don't have to carry this alone anymore." For the first time, Keanu looked at her with something beyond calmness. There was vulnerability in his eyes, a rare glimpse of the man behind the silence. He gave a faint smile, small but real. "Together," he repeated quietly. They stood in silence, the city noise fading around them. Both of them knew the storm was not over. The shelter's future still hung by a thread. The world's eyes were closing in, and the past that shaped Keanu's kindness still remained untold. What neither of them knew was that soon, the truth of his past would surface in ways neither could control. And when it did, it would test the strength of their bond and the meaning of kindness itself. The storm arrived faster than anyone expected. Within a week, the whispers online had grown into stories, and those stories turned into headlines. Photographs of Keanu entering the shelter were everywhere. Some praised him for his humility, while others accused him of staging a secret publicity campaign. The noise was loud, cruel, and relentless. Anna read the articles with growing anger. She saw how strangers twisted his kindness into suspicion. They questioned his motives, called him a saint one moment and a fraud the next. It made her stomach turn. She wanted to speak out, to defend him, but Keanu refused. "The world will always say what it wants," he told her quietly. "I don't need to fight them. I just need to keep showing up here." But even as he spoke those words, Anna could see the pain behind his calmness. The shelter was suffering. Donations had dropped because of the rumors. The landlord had grown nervous about the attention and threatened to close the building. And the people inside, those who had trusted the shelter as their safe space, now felt exposed. One evening, Anna walked into the shelter to find a group of residents arguing. "They're going to shut us down," one of them shouted. "We'll be back on the streets because of him." Anna froze. Keanu was standing there, silent, taking in every harsh word. He did not defend himself. He did not raise his voice. He only lowered his head, letting their anger pour out like a storm against stone. Anna could not hold back. "Stop," she said firmly, stepping into the circle. "Do you know what this man has done for you? Do you know how many mornings he has come here when no one was watching, carrying food with his own hands?" Her voice shook, but her eyes blazed with conviction. "If this place survives, it will be because of him. If it falls, it will not be his fault. It will be because the world doesn't understand what real kindness looks like." The room grew quiet. Keanu looked at her, his expression unreadable. Later, as they left together, he said softly, "You didn't have to do that." "Yes, I did," she answered. "Because silence is not always strength. Sometimes people need to hear the truth even if they don't want it." For a moment he said nothing. Then he gave her a rare smile, small but filled with gratitude. "You remind me of someone," he whispered. Anna tilted her head. "Who?" His smile faded into a distant shadow. "My sister. She was the one who taught me to care. She told me once that when you give, you heal. She's gone now. But every time I walk into that shelter, I hear her voice." Anna's heart clenched. She had always felt there was a story buried in his silence, and now a piece of it had surfaced. She wanted to reach for his hand, to comfort him, but he turned away, hiding the weight of his grief. The next day, the worst news arrived. The landlord had given final notice. The shelter had to shut down within 2 weeks. Panic spread through the residents. Some cried, others packed their few belongings. Volunteers were devastated. Anna felt helpless. She looked at Keanu, searching for answers, but his face carried the same calm mask. "We will find a way," he said, though his eyes betrayed doubt. That night, Anna sat alone in her apartment, her thoughts racing. She realized that for the first time in her career, her fame could serve a purpose beyond herself. She had a voice, a platform, and a following that listened. She could use it to protect the shelter. But doing so meant exposing Keanu's secret fully to the world. It meant breaking the shield he had guarded for years. It meant risking his trust. She picked up her phone, her hand trembling. She began typing a message to her followers, a plea for support, but she stopped halfway. Her mind battled with her heart. Should she protect his wish for silence, or should she save the lives of those who would be lost without the shelter? The decision tore at her, but as she thought of the children, the old faces, and Keanu's sister's memory, she knew what she had to do. The next morning, Anna walked into the shelter holding her phone. She found Keanu sitting with the children, his voice soft as he read them a story. When their eyes met, she said quietly, "I'm going to tell the world not about you, but about them, about why this place matters." His face grew still. Silence stretched between them. Finally, he whispered, "And if the world twists it?" She stepped closer. "Then let them twist. But at least the truth will be out there. At least the shelter will have a chance." Keanu looked at her, his jaw tight, his eyes heavy with conflict. Then slowly he nodded. "If you do this, do it with respect. Promise me that." Anna nodded, her heart racing. "I promise." And with that promise, a door opened. The secret kindness he had carried alone was about to be tested under the harshest light of all, the world's eyes. The day arrived heavy with tension. The shelter buzzed with unease as words spread that Anna was about to speak publicly. Some residents feared the attention, others clung to hope, and volunteers whispered about what it might mean. Keanu sat quietly in the corner, his head bowed, as if preparing for something he could not control. Anna stood at the center, her phone in her hand. Her palms were sweating, her heart racing. She knew millions would hear her words, and once spoken, there would be no turning back. She looked around the room, the children holding on to worn-out toys, the old woman clutching her blanket, the man who once shouted in anger now sitting quietly in the corner. Their lives hung in balance. She lifted her phone and pressed record. Her voice trembled at first, but then it grew steady, filled with fire. "This is not a story about actors or fame," she began. "This is a story about a place hidden in the heart of this city, where people who are forgotten find warmth, food, and dignity. It is a place that is about to disappear, unless we stand together to save it." She paused, her eyes finding Keanu. His gaze was calm, unreadable, but there was something in his eyes, a quiet trust. She continued, her voice stronger now. "I have seen kindness here that the world doesn't talk about. I have seen lives lifted, not by headlines, but by small acts of care. If you are listening, if you believe in humanity, then help us keep this shelter alive. With that, she ended the video and uploaded it. Within minutes, the world responded. The video spread like fire, carried by hearts that longed for hope. Donations began pouring in. Messages flooded social media. People shared stories of their own struggles, their own wishes to help. What began as a whisper turned into a movement. Inside the shelter, people watched in awe as volunteers refreshed their phones. Numbers climbed. Messages of love and support filled the screens. For the first time in weeks, the air was filled with joy instead of fear. Children laughed, and the old woman who once sat silent now wept tears of relief. But through it all, Keanu remained quiet. Later that night, as the shelter settled, Anna found him standing alone outside, looking at the sky. She approached carefully. "We did it," she whispered. He turned to her, his face soft in the glow of the streetlight. "You did it," he corrected. "You gave them a voice." "But it was your kindness that built this," she said firmly. He shook his head gently. "Kindness belongs to everyone, Anna. I was just holding it in silence. You gave it wings." For the first time, Anna saw something shift in him. The walls of quiet he had carried for years seemed to lower. He spoke about his past, his sister, the nights of loneliness he had endured, the promise he made to himself never to let others feel unseen. His words were heavy with pain, but also with healing. Anna listened, her eyes filled with tears. In his story, she found her own reflection, the loneliness of fame, the hollow ache of recognition without connection. She realized that the shelter had not only saved the people inside it, it had saved her too. Weeks later, the shelter stood stronger than ever. New volunteers came, donations grew, and hope filled its walls. Keanu continued his quiet visits, though now he was no longer alone. Anna was always there beside him, not as a star, but as a friend, a partner in kindness. The world eventually moved on to other stories, other headlines. But for those who knew, the shelter remained a place of quiet miracles. And for Keanu and Anna, it became a reminder that kindness, whether hidden or revealed, had the power to change lives, including their own. One evening, as they walked out of the shelter together, Anna looked at him and smiled. "Do you still wish it had stayed a secret?" Keanu paused, then shook his head softly. "No. Sometimes the world needs to see what kindness looks like, so it remembers how to practice it." Anna nodded, her heart light. They walked side by side into the fading light of the city, two souls bound not by fame, but by the quiet power of compassion.